Hey, this is Dennis O'Brien on Let's Talk About It. We have a really special show for you tonight. Today is, of course, is Valentine's Day, and today is the day that the Cupids are crowned. And we have two Cupids this year. This is not the first time. This is the third time, but wow, the most deserving Cupids of all, Jamie Eves and Kit Eves. They were on the show with us just a few weeks ago. And this is just wonderful. I'm so happy, and so happy they could make it onto the show. So happy that it came on a Friday when we have our show, and we got them on before anybody else. And I'm sorry, but I play that game in the radio with Wayno, and
but he asked first, just so you know.
Oh, of course he did. Yeah, of course he did. And Keith Rice, and there's a show now with. Mark Doyle and Ken Folan have a show on Thursday, and they're saying it's a positive show, which is good to hear. I'd like positive radio about Wyndham, and I've congratulated them for that. But we got you first. Aha, we got you here.
And that is my co-host ambition, to be first, always.
Yeah,
Especially
all right.
when it comes to Cupids, when we have such a great selection this year of Cupids, and people who both of you have done amazing work here in town. Both Jamie and Kit Eves have been here, bringing the people in the town together in numerous ways. I mean, whether it's at the museum or the Lions Club, or just inland wetlands and watercourses, the university systems. You have so many things that you do for us, and it's just so appreciated.
Local all-stars for sure, in terms of making Wyndham a wonderful place to be, and we really appreciate you. I think I've written recently that I think Jamie Eves has probably been on our show more than anybody else. Joe Courtney once held that title. But he's not as easy to get on as he used to be.
I would think he'd be very hard.
Well, he's harder. I'll tell you that.
He's an important person. So.
Well, he's an important political force.
Yes, he
is. He's a good guy. And if he lived in our town, I would promote him for Cupid. I think he'd be great. And he's a good guy. So you're in good company. But Jamie has always been. More than willing to come on the show, even on short notice. When we've had people cancel, it happens once in a great while, or things fall through. We've been able to get him on, in addition to his regular shows when we have him on TV as well. He's always been ready, willing, and able to. It doesn't take him long to come up with a good story because he knows the stories.
Well, when somebody says talk history, as students know,
we're going to want you to talk some history today too. But I want to talk about why I think you were elected Cupid and you picked by the town council, and I think the town council, and I've had some issues with the town council since I left it, and but recently I think they've done really, really well. I think they picked a nice, good town manager. I'm very much impressed with Rob Zaretsky. And now they picked two wonderful Cupids. Not just one, but two. And we're just so happy. Right, Sue?
Absolutely. We're very, very happy. We got the right people, the right Cupids.
We are very honored.
It's very, very good.
Very honored.
It's nice, I guess. That's one of the things I like about elections. Because I've run for office, certainly not as much as Sue has. And you do get feedback. You're doing well, okay? I was probate judge and I was elected a few times, and I think it's to some extent it's feedback. You're doing well. We appreciate you, and this is something that you've never been involved in politics as candidates, but you haven't been able to get that kind of feedback, and now you're getting it through the Cupid choice by people who know a lot about the town, the town council of the town of Wyndham, and they've made a great choice. And I got to say that in the past somehow I've been able to, once in a while I'm able to find out in advance, but this time I did not know until I heard, and I was listening while I was working, and I thought it was wonderful. I had I had tears in my eyes. I was so pleased by their choice. The town council is on a roll. They did the right thing again. I think you both. The things that you have done, multiple things that permeate the whole community. The history, the kit. You making all those masks for people during the COVID. I mean, that was, I was just amazed when I found out about your good works regarding sewing and stuff, about that sewing group you were with.
You know, the mask things is I think one of the things about the last few years I'm the most proud of. I made 100 masks every week for the soup kitchen through the 13 months of COVID.
Wow.
And it came, plus others for other people, and I counted them. I made 15,800 and change for masks, and I kept doing it because every now and then I would see on the streets of the town somebody wearing one of the masks that I made.
Oh, wow.
And, I don't know who that person was.
Yeah.
And I'd come home and I'd tell Jamie about it and how good that made me feel, that I was keeping somebody safe that I didn't know. And, maybe their circumstances were that they could use the mask in places where it was really not safe for them to be, because I think they were, they got it from the soup kitchen, and they probably were street people, or certainly not in the best of circumstances for housing. And that just, to me, I'm so glad I had the wherewithal to be able to do that. My mom was a home ec teacher, and she taught me how to sew.
Well, you saved people's lives doing that.
Yeah, I think so.
And and I've had that experience on an individual basis when I was in the probate court. And somebody actually told me it happened a couple of times, you saved that guy's life.
Yeah.
The guy that they wanted to take off life support. And I said, no. Okay, because I had control over who the conservator was. And I chose the conservator who wasn't in favor of the, taking, and the person is probably still kicking around today.
Yep.
And I had, that was, and the person who told me that I had saved the person's life was not somebody who was a big fan of mine. And I was just totally, and so if you made 15,800 masks, these people are running around. It was really dangerous at the time.
Oh, it was.
I was cloistered. I mean, I wouldn't go to the supermarket. Sue did all the shopping. I was scared. I wouldn't go to the gym.
Yeah.
I got some gym equipment at home, and it was scary. So you definitely that's a lifesaver.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It's
Wonderful work.
It's hard to top that. It really is. You can't do much better than that.
No.
But when I thought about the notion of you two being Cupids, I said this is a natural. And I love history. I loved hearing all of Jamie's stories, true stories. Well, history is whatever, it's passed on down, and as it's probably not, some of it is totally, it's a perception.
Yeah.
It's a perception. I mean, maybe you want to talk about that.
Well, some of it is data, and some of it's interpretation.
Sure.
And so it's actually when I have college freshmen, we actually have to talk about it. So it's the first lesson we do, data, interpretation, and opinion.
Yeah.
And interpretation is opinion, but it's opinion backed up by evidence.
Yeah.
The same way scientific theory is. Scientific theory is not just your opinion about something scientific.
Right.
You got to have evidence for it. And the same is true with history.
Yeah.
So, and the interpretation is necessary because I tell them, think about it as if you went into a museum and there were glass cases with stuff in them and nothing that told you what it was and what it was used for. That's not useful. It's just stuff. And that's what facts are. That's what data is.
Yep.
So you have to make it useful. You have to explain what it is and why it's important. And that's
interpretation. Used it and how they used it.
Yeah, and that's interpretation. But interpretation does change over time, depending on who's doing the interpreting. And,
exactly.
And and what kinds of questions they're trying to answer and what they're trying to understand. So I did a guest lecture earlier this week And as part of it, because it came up in part of the discussion, was I talked about how a governor of Maine, Joshua Chamberlain, the hero of Little Round Top at Gettysburg, later on became governor of Maine, and then it was in retirement, physically wasn't chronologically wasn't all that old, but physically was, because he had wounds. He carried bullets in him for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
And so as this old man, there was this crisis in Maine, and the crisis was that the party that was in power decided to rig the election so that they would win again, and they basically hid ballots in the State House. The other party found out about it, and there was threats of violence, and the party that was in power hired thugs to assault the State House. So the thugs are outside the State House, and the governor, who was part of this whole thing, in order to try to sort of take the heat off himself, asked Chamberlain to be the head of the state militia, to come in and take over the state militia for right then. And Chamberlain agreed, but he knew that if he did that and then called out the militia, there would be a civil war in Maine, and people would shoot each other in the streets of Augusta. So what he did is he ordered the militia to stand down, even though they were mostly from his party and his side. He was the party that lost the election.
Yeah.
And then he deputized the Augusta City Police, which, I don't know, 10 officers or something like that at the time, and not all that well trained, and said, "You're defending the State House. You guys are doing it." And so that you've got this mob of thugs gathered outside, ready to assault the State House, and they're armed. Behind them, you've got the militia starting to gather from the other party with their guns. And Chamberlain comes out in the middle of winter on the steps of the State House. He got a big, long coat, and he holds his coat open to expose the clothes he's wearing underneath. And he says, "I think some of you, I've heard, want to kill me. Well, this is your chance. Do it right now." And they didn't, and they backed down.
Wow.
Okay, an event that if I had told that story 10 years ago would have been a ho-hum boring story, from history. But
Maybe.
so
I don't know.
what?
It's
It's a so
wild,
what story,
yes.
but today that's not a so what story. There's a similar story in Connecticut's history too, with the crowbar governor and things like that, where there could have been violence in Connecticut over the outcome of an election, and people figured out how not to have that happen. I would say both in Connecticut and Maine, people did better with it than we did nationally. But it's okay. This is now a call for interpretation. So as events change, we have to interpret past events to make them relevant to what we're doing today.
Well, I mean, I think we've talked a little bit with you in the past about local history here, and especially for me in my situation, thinking about having been involved in the politics for more than 45 years. I've been through some local situations that were I thought interesting, and somewhat irregular, and somewhat sometimes depressing, and unhappy events that I think I know a lot about in terms of what happened, and a lot of it has never been really made known publicly.
Yeah.
And it's there's always, life is incredibly interesting, real life, more so than I remember when I was a kid. I said I didn't read much fiction, and I probably should have read a lot more than I did. I did read, Catcher in the Rye, but and
What a
few other
depressing
books.
book that is.
What's that?
What a depressing book that
Oh
is.
yeah, very, very.
Well, yeah.
I got into reading some other stuff too, some German stuff that was. Anyway,
People waving to us
People waving,
on the
that's great.
street.
and it's anyway. History is your field is. I was a minor in history at UConn. I majored in political science, minored in history. History is, it's so interesting, and I
yes.
I could listen to you talk about it for hours.
It's a great major for people going to law school too.
Oh sure.
So you
absolutely.
got a good background for going to law school.
I had a good background, but I found when I was in law school that I don't want to talk about myself.
Well,
I-
when you are in law school and you're learning the case history, that's history.
Oh yeah, oh sure.
That's right.
Oh
It
sure.
sure
I
is.
also
Yeah.
learned how to write because we read a lot of cases back, and I went to law school in the late '60s, early '70s. So we read cases about in terms of how judge-made law develops.
Yeah.
There are certain strains of judge-made law that go on for years and years and years in certain places, and they pick out cases like that and put it in a textbook to teach you how the law evolves.
Yep.
And a lot of it was from the South, and so you end up as a law student, you end up coming out of law school and you're writing sort of like a Southern judge from 1923, and then you have to come back down to earth and simplify your writing.
Yeah.
I've said that before in the air. It's not the first time I've said it. Anyway, I think the history is such a important part of my hometown, my birth town of New Britain, because of the many different ethnic groups there and how they came together, and also here. And I think what you've done with the museum, you and others, especially you, to my way of thinking, over the years was, to let us all teach us all about other ethnic groups that have played an important role in the history of this town, and continue to play a role in this. The history goes even further into the future.
Sure.
I think that's wonderful.
I will say, and I want to say this often about the museum succeeds as a team.
Yeah.
And,
Get that.
it isn't just me doing something. I told people at an event not long ago that I was awfully lucky as a director that I had the very best partner you could have in Bev York.
Yes.
So it's been a terrific team that's been in there. Kit's part of that team over the years, and that's the success of the museum. That it's a group of people working together to achieve important things.
I just want to say one thing about that before I forget. That I always advertise the show on Facebook, and I got a lot of response for the show. So there's a lot of people out there listening, but one person who responded. It was actually I put it on the Shabu website as well.
Okay.
I try.
Sure.
I try to go all over the place.
Yeah.
I want people to listen.
That's a good one too.
It is a good one, and Tom Beersley responded
No
with
kidding.
a big thumbs up
Yeah.
about you
Very
two
nice.
being Cupids and being on the show.
Yeah, Tom was really important to developing a local history community here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had to get that in before I'm gonna let Susan say something.
Oh, thank you, Dennis.
Oh, oh, come on! Let's no. That's wonderful.
Anyway,
You're welcome, Susan.
I just wanted to follow up on Dennis's remark, because I think that when you have all the different ethnic groups we have here, and we learn about the history, we understand who we are as a community, and it brings us together. And I've always felt that the work that you do, Jamie, and the work that Kit does at the museum helps everybody understand who we are as a community and who we are as a region, because the region was a great economic development creator, and a lot of what's here today is because of the different ethnic groups that came through here, and understanding that is really an important thing.
24 different nationalities
Yes.
came to Willimantic in order to have jobs and make their lives better for themselves and their families. And we are a melting pot.
Yeah. I just want to give you praise for that, and I think that's one
Thank
of
you.
the reasons that I think that we do so well here, and
Yes.
I think it as a community, and we can continue to build on that, and it's one of the things I think WILI is doing is they want to make sure that we try and get back some of the sense of community, because when the mills went away and when a lot of the economic power left here, we kind of didn't have that same ability. But with the museum, with the WILI working to have more community people here do these talk shows, it's another way for us to
Absolutely.
create a community sense.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, and I know Jamie Eves and Kit Eves recognize that because they've always been more than willing to appear on the show because they understand the importance of the local radio shows. And I'm sure you'll be on the Wayne Norman show next week, and probably with Keith Price. You're going to be in great demand, and you asked for it, and you're getting it. You know,
This actually has been a great week for our whole family.
Yeah.
Our son, who owns All Sleep, his business just had its 50th anniversary, and
Right.
that was a big deal. And our daughter-in-law Karen is the director of the play at the Burton Levitt Theater, and that's Pride and Prejudice. It's going on at 7:30 tonight, tomorrow, and Sunday.
Sunday is 2:00 and 6:30,
6:30,
and
oh,
I know
6:30.
there are seats available at the 6:30 showing because I went to sign up for ours and I saw there were empty ones there. So
So that's where we should go then.
that would be a good time to go. They added that one late, so that's why
Because of
there's
the-
empty seats
because
to
of the snow
make
that
up
they
for
had
snow
last week.
days. Yeah.
So for our family, this has been a big deal week for us.
Right.
Well, it just goes to show, as parents, as leaders, you created a family that is really active in the community and doing great things all the way around. So it's wonderful. This is Susan Johnson. I'm here with my co-host Dennis O'Brien and our Cupids, Jamie and Kit Eves, and we will be right back after these messages. Welcome back, everyone. This is Susan Johnson. I'm here with my co-host Dennis O'Brien and our very special guest this evening on Cupid Friday the 14th. We have Jamie Eves and Kit Eves. Both were nominated and chosen as Cupids for Romantic Willimantic Day, and we're very, very happy to have the dual Cupids here. And I do have the proclamation from the town of Windham, Mayor Tom DeVivo, and talks about how, first just a little bit of information, how John Lesko actually created the Cupid Day, and it was done with Bunny Lesko, actually.
I think it was her idea.
It was her idea,
And he carried it out.
Yeah, that's right, Dennis.
That's what Wayne has told me over and
And that's
over
what
again.
I actually, when I had a memoriam for John Lesko at the Capitol, that was one of the things that I
remember that. It was
included.
there.
And I actually presented that to the rest of the House and the Senate, who joined us as well.
That was a great day.
Yeah, but they do both. Jamie and Kit have promoted a wonderful image for Windham, and that's why they're dual recipients this year. All the work that they've done in the museum, all the work that they have done telling our community about its history, bringing us together with the information that helps everybody understand where they are and who they are. And, of course, working with the Lions Club. And Dennis and I are both Lions as well. And the Lions Club is really a club that takes care of people. And Kit has really done a great deal of work, and so has Jamie, with respect to the Lions Club, helping us out with the No Free Shelter, the Soup Kitchen, and the other local nonprofit organizations that really do the job that this town works so hard to address the needs of people who don't have a place to live, who don't have enough food. These are the things that Kit and Jamie have been doing all these years, and they're just wonderful people. And so I'm very, very pleased and honored that you're here with us today. And so that's a little summary of what the proclamation from the town of Windham said. But I just wanted to, review that as well, because it does kind of cover everything. And I know that you're out there every year when the No Free Shelter opens, working with the Lions Club to help us out, to raise some money so that they can get a good start in the winter.
It's the No Free Shelter has a new name. It's now called Project Hope, and it's going to be open throughout the year, not just during the winter. Part of it is because of their new place they can do that. The shelter offers counseling. It offers things that people need. If you're on the street, you probably don't have a toothbrush. You don't necessarily have more than a couple of pairs of socks, maybe a couple of pairs of pants and a couple of shirts. It's a way, you certainly don't have dishes for your house. where you can cook and eat off of a plate. So it's a place for people to go, and when you put together the good work that WAME does, the Wyndham Area Interfaith Ministry in town, where people donate those types of things there, it means that eventually people can get housed. And so the No Free Shelter collects soap and toothbrushes and toothpaste and laundry detergents and things like that, toilet paper, we all need things like that to help get people housed. And they're just, a wonderful way that this community works together. The Soup Kitchen feeds people. WAME helps get clothes and furniture for folks, and No Freeze keeps people warm and then gets them the necessary counseling, helps people get their IDs so that they can get the benefits and have an address where people can send those benefits.
Mm-hmm. And it's a great thing, and you really do a good job of coordinating that. You also work to coordinate in the winter to help raise some money for the museum with the wrapping program.
Is that WRA or RA? I'm just trying to be a wise guy.
Trying?
She's a rap star.
I'm a rap star,
yes.
So every year we do gift wrapping out at the Eastbrook Mall. It's usually by Kohl's. The last few years have been by Kohl's. And we're hoping that with the new revitalization that's going on with new owners at the Eastbrook Mall, that we'll be able to continue to go there. This project started when we first moved to Connecticut. It seems that Bev York wanted a fundraiser for the museum, and she knew that I was pretty good at organizing things. And I remember that my mother for years had done gift wrapping at the Bangor Mall as a fundraiser for the Red Cross, and that it was very lucrative. And so I thought, well, why the heck not? We've got a couple of, she asked me in August, we've got a couple of months, I can figure this out, and we can do it. And we wrapped for 3 days that first year. And this last year, we wrapped for 10 days, and, so many people help. There's 3 shifts every day. There are at least 4 people on every shift, and on the 24th, when we are so busy, I'll sometimes have 10 people gift wrapping just to keep up with the demand. And it's all by donation. The first 3 years, we actually had boxes where, this size box you give this much money, this bigger size box you give this much money, and so forth. And we had them all as display. And since we were all volunteers, we weren't really happy when our customers would debate what size box they had for their gifts, because we didn't want to argue with them, and, it was for charity. No. So after the 3rd year, I said, okay, to heck with this. We will go by donation and see what happens.
Yeah.
The amount of money we got almost tripled.
Isn't that fabulous?
So we do it all by donation. You give us what you can afford. So that means that a little kid who's down to their last quarter because they're buying mom's present, we will wrap their present just as nicely for a quarter as the gentleman who's buying his engagement ring to ask his hopefully fiance this tiny little package who will give us $50.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing. You say, "Oh, this is for the museum," and people. Because I've been there, I've wrapped.
I've seen you do this too,
and the last couple of years, we've done this also with the Lions Club. So half the money has gone to the museum, and half the money has gone to the Lions Club charities.
Right.
In the charity account, 100% of everything we raise when we do a charity event, like a pancake breakfast or a wine tasting or this gift wrapping or some other thing, the No Freeze event, 100% of that goes to the charity that we say it's going to go to.
It's a wonderful thing.
That's wonderful, yeah.
Absolutely. Very, very good. So, yeah, I wanted to touch base with Jamie too about some of your vision for other historical projects you're working on.
So a big thing that I could come back actually and do an entire show on.
We do love that. We
Well,
love
if you
it.
would, we will have you.
But I'll give you a preview.
Okay, great.
Is that we have wanted for a long time to redesign our main exhibit room, the Bev York room, and to take half of that room for an introductory exhibit to the museum and an introductory exhibit to the idea of the Industrial Revolution and what it meant in the state of Connecticut. And that would put the rest of the museum in the context, but would also be more modern, with more modern museum types of things, a lot more technology in it and things like that. And we have the funds to be able to do that now. So we're moving ahead with that. We have sort of temporary exhibits in the entire room right now, but we will be changing over pieces of it as we create this over the coming months. And a part of the room will be left aside for temporary exhibits. The temporary exhibit, that one of them that's there now, that'll be there until summer, has sad irons. And so people are asking me, why were those irons so sad?
Yes.
This sad iron is a solid iron, flat iron is what it is. And sad actually is an older English term meaning solid. They're solid irons is what it means. And somebody gave us a whole bunch of those at the Mill Museum. It was back during COVID. We have several dozen of them. And so we are actually doing some restoration work on them, taking some of the rust off and things like that, and putting those on exhibit. But we're going to be telling a story for the rest of it, and the story of why did the Industrial Revolution happen, how did it change everything, including a section on labor and management. We're told by our friends in the union movement that we're the closest thing to a labor museum that Connecticut has. So there's going to be that. And then at the very end of it, as you walk through it, deindustrialization. Why did it all go away? And what happened to it? So it is to create a context, not just for us, but for all the other small museums in Connecticut that do similar stories. So unlike places like New York, which have giant, huge mega museums, Massachusetts, Boston, and New York City have these great big things. Connecticut has a few large museums, but it mostly is a whole bunch of real small ones. That's Connecticut. And
Connecticut does not have any any large cities.
Well, that's it.
That's part of it.
And so you can travel around the state, visiting multiple museums and getting different experiences and things like that. And so what we want to do is also have you use QR codes to say, well, okay, go to the Clock Museum to learn more about this, or the Industrial Museum in New Britain, or places like that. There's a museum in Meriden that's industrial based, to send people to other places, so that that it's because we can connect virtually, and that's the future of museums is more virtual kinds of things. That's what the younger generation is used to. It's what they want. It's the way that they're going to learn. So I'm excited about all of that at the museum.
And this is sort of happening with the new director. This is part of his vision. Aaron, whose last name I've never been able to pronounce, so I'm sorry, Aaron.
Skarzinski.
Okay, and it's wonderful to have new ideas and ways to go, and he's doing a good job.
This is really wonderful to hear this, because one of the things that I have been, as a legislator, thinking of is how the economy changes from one type of economic development to the next. And of course, we went from farming to the Industrial Revolution, and people not doing as much farming, and then moving away as we moved through the Reagan administration and the deindustrialization, the GATT and NAFTA treaties and those kinds of things. Those are the things that are really fascinating in terms of what happens to all of the industrial areas in the United States of America, and how the urban areas that had a great infrastructure were actually left with an inability really to keep up the regular payments for that once the industrial GATT and NAFTA treaty allowed and the tax system changed to move some of the industry down to different parts of the country or to overseas.
Okay, so the reality is we need to plan for the post-industrial present is what we need to do, and history is useful in doing that. It tells us where we are and how we got there, and it lets us know what we're not going to go back to, because recreating the industrial past is not feasible. Even if we wanted to do that, that's not going to happen. So how do we take advantage of that? And Town of Windham has been moving in that direction. They've done this, as you know, because you've been involved with it, to rebuild the economy based on culture, education, medicine. Ed and meds is the term that often gets used.
Oh, I like that.
I like that too. It rhymes. So this is the stuff that your career has been on. You've talked to me so many times about those issues, and that's whether we want to go in that direction or not. That's the direction we're going to go, and that opens opportunities, for towns, for the former industrial suburbs. So it's not to be Pittsburgh. It's to be Homestead. What does Homestead do? And Homestead didn't do very well, and East St. Louis didn't do very well. That's us. That's the industrial suburbs, not the central cities. Our central city is Hartford, and it's going to go in a certain direction, but we can't go in that direction. But there are directions we can go in, and models we can follow that are in other places, and that's history is really useful for that.
It's excellent for that, and it's really excellent to help people understand and help everybody work in a democracy to help plan the future, because meds and eds, I like that, or eds and meds, that is a great thing, and that is one of the things that when you take a look at the technology and what we're building here in this state, we have very high tech opportunities here for our students, but it takes a different type of academic background. You really have to have that math and the science and those kinds of things, and the school systems have to do that too, to make sure we can get the kids in those jobs.
The growing field of history is digital history.
Yeah.
That's the growing field.
Although, if you haven't been to the Textile Museum in a while, we've had a facelift in the Bev York room. There's a brand new rug on the floor. There's been some painting done. It's brighter and lighter, and
So that was with an ARPA grant that the town got during COVID. They got a lot of ARPA money, and the museum got some of that.
I voted for that.
And so that paid for
And a lot of other
renovation.
things.
yeah, which was
It had been
desperately needed.
since the 1980s, since that room had been updated. So looks good.
That's wonderful. Well, we have to unfortunately wind down. I want to thank you both for being here, and congratulations
Thank
on our
you.
Cupids. We just adore you, and we're just thrilled that you are the Cupids for
We're
this year.
delighted. We're very happy
Thank
that
you.
you are the Cupids. We're very happy you were able to join us tonight, and we hope to see you many times during the next year as you reign. That's REIGN, but it's really not reigning. But it is a wonderful thing.
I was
Because you're
told,
representing something here, representing our town.
I was told today I have to go to the lighting of the Christmas tree. I knew I had to be in the parade, but I didn't know I had to go to the lighting of the Christmas
You'll have to
tree.
do a lot of other things too. This is Dennis O'Brien, Susan Johnson, and we're all set with our show. Thank you, Cupids. We'll be back next week with another great show.